Afternoon, everybody. This is probably going to be another little series from me. Probably not every week, just every once in a while. I'm calling it Wobble Gob. I suppose really that name sort of came about from when I was younger. If you've been watching all the tags and everything like that, you've noticed that you probably get where I get my nickname from. It's actually my mum that used to call me a Wobble Gob. Apparently when I was younger I was very, very chatty, apart from apparently when I went through my teenage years. Wasn't that chatty, apparently I was very, very quiet. I'm probably a little bit miserable as well, but that's hormones for you. But I just thought I'd just start doing this. It's just, I suppose, me just rambling on while I'm doing a little bit of stitching. Something for you to listen to if you want to. You don't have to. Might just be a voice in the background. A few people have said to me they quite like just listening to me prattle on with my funny noises and funny sayings, and apparently now as well funny subtitles if you put them on. The subtitles, I don't control them. It's YouTube that do that, but I don't think they get a Yorkshire accent. Anyway, so this week, what's my Wobble Gob been all about? Well, it's been a little bit bonkers this week. I am on what was called HanneMADE. It's now the Craft Store, I think, Craft Store TV, on Monday at 10 o'clock. So I've been getting ready loads of my kits and sewing for England, trying to get loads and loads of samples done. So this is one of my ones that's the has tiny little butterflies that are made out of bullion knots and lazy daisy stitches, and just stitched with loads of different things. And I've started doing them on linen fabric. This one's on a lovely mustard linen. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I try and get 100% linen if I can. I get them from all sorts. Sometimes Merchant and Mills, online. eBay is quite good as well for picking up fabrics. So just loads and loads of different colours, and then I screen print them. So each one's done by hand with some ink, and I have these thermofax screens that are made for each one of them. So I'm busy working on those, and then at the same time as having these, when people get the kits, they get two hand stitching postcards that go through some of my favourite stitches. So this is one of them. Really simple, just going right back to basics really with your sewing. And I think that's one of the things that I think sometimes people get a little bit bogged down with, I suppose, is, oh, I'm not very good at stitching, I've not done stitching before. Basically, if you can thread a needle and you can go up and down, you can stitch, even if it's just really simple, just little straight stitches that turn into little seed stitches and stars. And a lot of the stitches really are variations on the same one. It's just where the needles go in and out and how you just combine things together. So that was the first one. I've got to just get this one. This is my second one in a hoop. So I've got this hoop that I'd been doing the other day. I was playing around with some of the techniques that we've done on the 52 tags, so couching down some fabrics, been playing around with bullion knots. These bits here were out of a lace crochet doily. They were bright white and I'd stuck them on. I didn't really like them, so I ended up painting them with just my cup of coffee that I had. Quite like them now, but it's one of these pieces where I just don't know if I like it, but I need the hoop at the moment. So I'm saying I need the hoop, I can't get it out. So it's coming out the hoop. When I have things like that I don't particularly like anymore, I don't ever get rid of them, because even if I don't use the whole thing, some of the elements on there I can reuse, just take off and reuse them again. So this was my second set of stitches that I did for the postcards that I've done. They're sort of, should have got one really. It's me really not thinking again. I should have got one and brought it out. So I have these because I just think it's nice to see sometimes these stitches isolated. So these were some of the ones that are on my next set of templates. So one of the things I had been playing around with while we were on holiday was just looking at different stitches and what you can do with them. So back stitch is probably a stitch I haven't really used, and I didn't realise actually how underrated it is and what other things you could do with it. So just doing a wrapped one where you have a second thread that gets wrapped around, you can weave in and out. And then obviously there's the Pekingese stitch that I've done quite a few times now. Looking at blanket stitch, but creating circles, couching threads down. But then what you do with this one is when you're couching it down, you just get another needle and you start lifting the threads in between, and it creates this beautiful texture. This is something that we did on the stitching hour the other day. And then these are the little butterflies that I was talking about, where you start off with a bullion stitch and then you add some pistol stitch and lazy daisies and you create little butterflies, and then a fishbone stitch with a shape. So just playing around with those sorts of stitches. So it's all these stitches really that then get used on the kits that I do. And when you do get a kit, I don't give very, very specific instructions like you need to do that stitch here and that stitch there. It is all about your interpretation, because one of the things that I really love about the kits is a little bit like my own work, is I don't ever have two the same. I like them to be unique. And then if you're fitting it to what you can do, it just means then it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner embroiderer. These are really great if you are beginning out, just to try lots and lots of different stitches on them. So that's one of the things that I've been busy doing this week. Just getting all those ready for Monday. And then what else have I been doing? Oh, I enlisted my youngest daughter. She was very, very happy to come and help. I've got Yarndale coming up at the end of September, which is a fantastic show. It's going to be my first embroidery show, proper textile show, since lockdown, or since way before. It's probably actually Yarndale 2 years ago was maybe the last show that I did. I love Yarndale. It's in Skipton Auction Mart. It's just fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. So I've been getting all the kits, or started doing the kits for that, and enlisted my daughter's help just to start getting me going. But a couple of things that I'm going to talk about on Wobble Gob Days are just different things. So one of the things that I've got ready here is my pin cushion with all my different needles in. People have asked me, what types of needles do I need? What do I need to use? There are a range of needles that you can use, from just really low cost ones that you find, these ones. I think I got these ones from Lidl, our local supermarket. Every so often they have these for 99p, and they're just general purpose sewing needles, but you get lots and lots of different sizes. They're not the strongest of needles, they're not the best quality needles, but they do serve a purpose. The thing I find with them is I can bend them, and sometimes I have actually snapped them when I've been vigorously sewing. If you do get into it, it's worth spending a little bit more money on some slightly better quality needles. But I have a range of needles from, now how's best going to be to show this from that blue? Oh god, so now you're going to see these. Got something white bit of fabric. Does that show up? Oh, I'll put them on my hand. From really, really fine, just general purpose embroidery needles. These ones are really good with machine threads and just single strands of DMC cottons. Very, very fine threads, they're great. Sometimes you can actually use these as well as a beading needle because they are so small, but you can also buy beading needles which are incredibly fine. They're really, really thin. One of the biggest tips and one of the best things to do if you're using a beading needle is to buy a beading thread as well. It looks a little bit like an embroidery thread, but it's actually a flat thread, and it's a lot easier to go through these needles, a lot easier. One of the biggest tips that I was told as well was that when you've got your thread, cut it on an angle. Don't cut straight across, cut it on an angle, and even though the threads are really fine, it creates a little point, just makes it a little bit easier to go through your needle. I've then got all the way up to quite big needles, so comparing the two different needles there, you've got that really fine one, then some slightly bigger ones. These are better for slightly thicker threads, a few more strands of DMC, linen threads and things like that. Another thing you have to think about sometimes is the thickness of the needle and the fabric that you're working on. When you're working on linen, the thicker needles generally are fine because it's quite an open weave. But if you're working on a very fine fabric or something that's got a very close weave on it, it can sometimes leave holes. So you do just need to think about that. There are needles that you can get as well. I don't know if you'll not be able to see this, I don't think, but these are self-threading needles. It doesn't mean to say that you just go ta-da and it just threads itself. It has a little V at the top there, and you can lay the thread across and then pull it through into the hole. It saves you trying to thread it. I can't get my head around those at all, and because it goes up, it actually opens up at the end, so it's actually thicker at the end than it is at the point, so sometimes that can be a little bit of a pain when you are stitching. There's all sorts of needles. This one's a slightly blunt needle. This is really good, especially if you're doing stitching where you want to go through and you don't want that point to go into your piece of fabric. Okay, so it just gives you that nice blunt end. If you don't have a blunt ended needle, one of the things that you can do is if you need to go through, you can just flip your needle round the other way, and the end with the eye, that can go underneath, and that gives you that blunt needle as well, just to go underneath. That's if you don't want to catch your fabric anywhere. Okay, there's somebody knocking at my door, so I'm just going to go and have a look. I'll be back in a minute. Typical, somebody comes to deliver something when you're busy talking and the kids don't go and answer the door. Right, so where was I? Yes, slightly blunter needles are really, really good for weaving and things like that. You've got darners and all different sorts of needles. So I've got little short needles, big eyes on them. They've all got technical names. I think the thing is when I get them, I do know what they're called, and then I use them and stick them all in my pincushion. I have no idea what they're called. The ones that I do know, these ones are one of my favourite needles. These are milliner's needles or straw needles, and these are the perfect needle to do a bullion knot. The reason being is, the reason it's called a straw is because the needle is the same thickness all the way through, even up to the eye, so that when you've wrapped that thread round and you're pulling it through for that bullion knot, it goes through so easily. I didn't believe how much easier it would be buying those ones. So they're milliner's needles or straw needles. Then I have my super big needles. So some of these are doll needles and some are mattress needles, and I use these when I'm doing tatting. And they just work really, really nice. I don't tend to stitch with these. They are a little bit lethal, but really, really good for tatting because you've got enough room to do your winding round and to create your shapes on there. So those tend to be all the needles that I have. I get them from loads and loads of different places. My little tin cushion here is a vintage one. I got this at a vintage fair. It's quite handy because it has a little bright pink little safety bit in there. This tends to travel with me anywhere. The pin cushion that I have on my desk is actually, it's a teacup. One of my sixth form students made me this when she finished. It's got my name in there, if you can see it. There we go. So it has my name in there. It's a beautiful teacup that she did me as a pin cushion. You can get needle threaders. There's different types of needle threaders. So there's this one, which is like a metal one with a hook either end. So what you do is pop the hook through the hole, pop your thread on it, and then pull it back through. We've got a big one and a little one. And you can get ones. I don't tend to use them because I tend to break them. But it's a tiny little bit of wire that you can pop through and pull back through. But like I say, I tend to break those ones. I'm not very good with those. So those are all my needles. It tends to be that I don't choose a specific one. It's just whatever I'm doing, whichever needle fits that hole is the needle that gets used. So I'm going to be having a day off actually tomorrow. I'm quite excited. I'm going to my sister's, and she knows that because I'm going and I'm doing Hochandra, I've got to take some stuff with me. So I tend to have my little picnic basket, which is here. Look that up. Whoop, there we go. So I have a little picnic basket. It's one that somebody was throwing away at work. I think they got a Christmas hamper in it. And when I'm going away, I tend to always take something with me. She knows that I'm taking stitching with her. Hopefully, the weather's going to be nice and we're just going to stitch in the garden. So when I have my little going away kit, I have a little box with all my threads in. I usually have a little miniature jam jar that I've got as my aught in there. Got my selection of threads. My needles, I got this from a workshop that I did at summer school with Flo Collingwood. She made us all these little vintage, just a tiny strip of fabric, just with some needles put in, and she had written down on the side what all the needles were. As you can see, I've not put them back, so I can't remember what they are. So I have my little box, and then I just have in here just little packets of things that I want to do, and they just all fit in the box. It's just brilliant because the box then just fits in the car, and I have got everything with me that I am going to need. So I suppose really that's my first Wobble Gob Wednesday. Probably not a full-on Wobble Gob. I suppose it's going to be mainly what I've been doing. Been buying things. Merchant and Mills have some beautiful haberdashery things. I've seen these entomology pins before. You get a beautiful little box, and then inside you get these absolutely stunning entomology pins, a little bit like the pins that they use to pin beetles and butterflies. They're quite long, they're lovely for fine fabrics, and they have a lovely little bead, little glass end to them. Wanted some of these for ages, and I finally went and bought myself some. So I've got some of those. The Merchant and Mills, you can get their stuff online. And then I got some of these white bulb pins. I've used these a lot in the work that I do, in my books and my hangings and all different sorts of things, but I've not seen white ones before. So I haven't used them yet in anything. I just got some white ones. And then I also bought myself, because obviously I've not got enough needles, but they had some long darners, and I just thought, right, if I have a set of needles that I can keep in a little pot. So these are quite long, about 2 inch long, I think. Variety of lengths, so some of them are slightly smaller than others, but they come in a really cute. There's 10 in there. I just thought, right, if I've got those, I don't necessarily need to take my pincushion because I've got them all in there, and it just means that I've got everything together. So that'll be going with me tomorrow when I go off for the day. Having a day off, it's quite exciting, even though it's been the school holidays. It's sort of like a holiday from school, but when I'm not at school, this is all the stuff that I'm doing. So that's my first Wobble Gob Wednesday. Not really that much. If you've heard a little bit of a thumping in the background, I do apologise. My husband is on the treadmill at the moment. He's just come home from work, and I think he's had a bit of a stressful week, which has meant that he's had to go and just run it out just a little bit. Next time I'm going to talk about all my scissors, my scissor collection. Love my scissor collection. I hope you do too. I get scissor envy when I see other people's scissors, and I am a little bit of a sucker for buying scissors and also threads. I've just had a bit of a sort out today. One of my friends, Abby, had posted on one of our group chats, how do you store your threads, your perlé threads, and a few people had put on how they did theirs, and then I came back and I thought, mine are all mixed up at the moment, and then ended up setting off this afternoon on a mammoth sort out of all my threads, which partway through I did think that's not what I'd come upstairs to do, but it does look a lot better now. I've actually got labels on things. Got really excited, and I bought myself one of these label machines where you stamp it. I had one of these when I was little, but it was one with the coin, that bit was on the front, and that you did. And when I saw them in the shop, I thought, oh, it's like full on retro. So I've labelled everything so that hopefully I will start putting stuff back. It won't happen. I know it won't happen because it's all nice and tidy at the moment, but now I won't be able to find anything. Okay, you see, I was going to finish, and then I started wobble gobbing again. So from one wobble gob, and it is a Wednesday, so it's a Wednesday wobble gob today. I will love you and leave you. I'll see you Friday for the next tag in our tag challenge. Thank you to those people that have sent me a cup of coffee, just really to help out, and my long-term goal, possibly to start cutting back on teaching so I can do more of this and share all this enthusiasm that I've got bubbling up inside me for stitching. So I will see you soon. Well, I'll see you on Friday. Take care. Love and hugs. Bye.